With every episode of this show, I try to make your life a bit easier, at least when it comes to podcasting. And today's episode is no exception. Today, you will learn why you don't need to actually sit down and start recording to have a podcast episode ready, what you can use and reuse right away to create 10 episodes today, and why having a weekly long form piece of content will make your marketing exponentially easier. So, if this sounds like something that is up your alley, let's dive in. This is Say Yes to Podcasting, where solopreneurs learn how to start podcasts that attract their ideal clients and do the marketing for them. I'm your host, Anja Lordanic. Let's launch your show. It is completely understandable that when someone mentions publishing a podcast episode, we immediately think of the ideation, brainstorming process, research, outlining, drafting, scripting, recording, and then editing. And only then is that episode ready to be published. And that is how most podcast episodes are created, to be fair, including this one. But today, I would like to challenge this idea and present to you something that is so much easier and equally as effective. The output is the same. The results can be the same, even though the process is a bit different. If you're here, chances are you teach, coach, mentor, and explain concepts for a living generally. You're a service provider. You provide services to your clients. You already speak every day, whether it is via email, Slack, Zoom calls, Google Meets, and we can go on. The point is, you've already spoken on a mic. It doesn't matter if you were on a stage or not. You already explained something to your clients dozens or hundreds of times. You already spoke to your prospects. You already went through some sales calls. And even better, on a more official level, you gave some talks virtually. You facilitated workshops, lectures. Those are all long form pieces of content that you already created. The structure is there, the idea is there, the message is there, and you already presented it to an audience who was willing to learn from you, who was actually ready to learn from you. And you see where I'm going with this. All of these, or parts of these, lectures and workshops are perfect for solo episodes. And they're great for all of the reasons I mentioned previously. You already did all the hard work. You know that the message will land because it landed with your clients, with your students, whoever was willing to listen to you on that day. And all you need is some light editing, recording an intro, an outro, and you're ready to go. So think about it. When was the last time you gave a lecture, organized a workshop? All of those are hours long pieces of content that you can keep on using and reusing and creating mini solo episodes with little to no extra effort on your part. We can take it a step further. I mentioned sales calls before, but what about client calls? And of course, before you come at me, we will discuss what can be used and what absolutely should not be used as a podcast episode. Let's illustrate this through an example. So, a few minutes ago, I talked about explaining certain concepts to clients and students and how we do that dozens of times, hundreds of times. This is exactly what happens during a client call, a private coaching call, during group calls. So, of course, you will always protect the identity of your clients and students. But when it comes to those calls, those sessions, you can always extract 5 to 10-minute insights that are general enough that could serve your audience and that will not reveal the identity of your clients. So, what we're looking at here are standalone insights, ideas, something that could be a standalone solo episode even if it is extracted from a 2-hour group call. And needless to say, you're still a professional, you're still conducting yourself ethically and in alignment with your client's privacy. I hope that these examples managed to inspire you a bit and spark some ideas, and that they made you think of a speaking gig you had last year that you could very well take advantage of. And just a quick side note, speaking of professionalism and ethical behavior, when it comes to speaking gigs that you had for a different company or a different individual, always make sure to check with them beforehand. Let them know how you would like to use that audio file and be transparent and open with them. And of course, depending on the contract or an agreement you had with them, you might even get a no. But from what I noticed in other podcasters, the answer is most always a yes. And in those cases, always make sure to link to their event or their profile, the organizer's profile in the show notes. Now, moving on. Let's say you don't record calls with your clients or students. In that case, and this example is a bit different compared to the previous ones, you can always repurpose the already existing text based content you have online. For example, at some point in the past, you might have written dozens of blog posts, which still count as structured thinking, which still count as standalone ideas that you described, but not in audio form, in text form. And that is your IP, your intellectual property. You're always welcome to extract different ideas from your own writing, from your own pre existing work, and turn it into an audio file or a podcast episode. So, if you want to have a bit more control over your podcast episodes, you can always record them from scratch using existing ideas and existing content that is already out there. You can always use your previous work that is already out there as a baseline for your new podcast episode. But in case you don't want to do all of that by yourself, you're always welcome to book a recording sprint where we essentially record 4 podcast episodes in 1 hour. So you can get 1 month of content in 1 hour. Honestly, it is so fun and it is effortless for my clients because they get those 4 episodes that are ready to be published. So everything but that 1 hour of recording is hands off for you. You can see exactly what it looks like by clicking the first link in the show notes. And finally, let's talk a bit about why having this weekly long form piece of content will change everything about your marketing. Everything we talked about today is fairly easy because you already have the content, everything is ready. You just need to polish it up a bit, and it is ready to be published. Repurposing that kind of content into podcast episodes is doable. However, once you do launch your podcast and once you do start recording and publishing podcast episodes every week, everything else becomes so much easier. A cohesive long form podcast episode that is 15 to 20 minutes long can be turned into numerous LinkedIn posts, newsletter editions, even talking points for sales calls, and so much more. The possibilities are virtually endless. And the best part about everything we talked about today is that we do this for a living anyway. We talk for a living, we explain things for a living. Why not use that content and turn it into standalone podcast episodes? The goal of this episode was to help you look at the concept of podcast episodes a bit differently, to show you that you already have some episodes in the bank. You just weren't aware of it because you didn't look at them that way. And now that you listen to this episode, you can't unsee it. Everything can be turned into content. So if you are a teacher, a coach, a mentor of any kind, you're most probably sitting on hours of usable material without even knowing it. So, contrary to what we've been told before, the real challenge isn't the recording process itself. Instead, it is recognizing what we already have. So, think about what you already have and get those episodes out. I'll see you next week.